Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on the Wayne's World edition, part of our On the Ice show here on ASTV Productions. Joining me as always, Wayne Kosior, junior hockey advisor here across Western Canada and those southern states. He looks like a little more dressed like California, but more maybe feeling like Saskatchewan with the weather. How's that for you, Wayne?
Hey, there you go. I wish I was in Southern California, but pretty darn nice day here in Regina today. Not a cloud in the sky and nice and sunny. And sure, the air is crisp, but it's a beautiful time of the year. I love fall time.
Did you have Halloween trick-or-treaters this past weekend for festivities on Sunday? Was it good to see, or was it something that was pretty quiet still?
We were actually away, so we didn't have any, but numerous of the my relatives and the residents here locally and stuff just said it was a little bit quieter than normal in most cases type thing. And I think it's again due to that COVID thing. Everybody's still a little bit cautious.
It was nice to see some kids out, saw some trick-or-treaters, and it was good to see a little bit of Halloween back. But nonetheless, last week we started talking about players thinking about how to present themselves properly and talk about themselves in a positive light, getting ready for those discussions with potential new teams. And you've been busy, Wayne, these past couple of days preparing for these discussions with junior players and the different routes, comparing Western Hockey League to the two southern routes of the USHL and the NCAA. You had a presentation on it. Let's go over some of those differences between these three leagues, because quite frankly, it's there are some differences based on what you as a player are looking forward to.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
First one, I mean, like the first and foremost, what strikes me is that the WHL always tries to, for lack of a better term, pluck or pick the best candidates at the ripe old age of 15 years old, right in the middle of puberty, right in the middle of their adolescent growing. Growth spurts and hand-eye coordination can all go up, and maturity in the body goes, the composition changes. And not only do they have a 22 or 23-man roster, but they have a protected list of up to 50.
Mm-hmm.
How is that? And go ahead. Speak a little bit on that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's business rationale on why they do that. And I mean, the bottom line main reason, in my opinion, would be is that, it's a race to see who gets there first, right? Usually the first guy that can get in the door and, draft a kid and pitch him, they're going to try to get him signed if he's, has interest in going south of the border to the USHL or NCAA. And so in my opinion, I think that's probably why the WHL continues to have, what's called a 14-year-old draft. It'll be the year that the player's turning 15, whereas in the US, it's the year they're turning 16 or a 15-year-old draft. And it's to keep that jump on them, in my opinion. But to your point, it's extremely hard to project that kid when he's just entering puberty. How is he going to develop? How big is he going to become? How is his strength going to go? I mean, everything academically, where is he going to go? There's just so many variables that, it's a real crapshoot. And I guess that's why you see undrafted players that become stars in the league, and players that are drafted even as high as the first round don't even play a meaningful role in the league type thing. So, I guess my message that I leave with parents is that the draft is a great experience. Wonderful if you get your name called, but don't put too much weight on it, whether you go first round or you don't get drafted at all, because at the end of the day, that's not going to determine if you play in the WHL and if you're a star and if you go on to the NHL.
Now, for the one thing you briefly touched on there, Wayne, is that 14 going on 15-year-old hasn't even broken into senior high school yet. I mean, they haven't even started putting together GPAs or having to think about credentials and scoring lines in the classroom, not only on the ice, but for these student athletes potentially going Division I, Division III, ACHA, USHL route. How do you talk to those students, and if they're really significantly thinking about going to the States, does that play in? That has to play into account. If you get drafted highly in the WHL, what do you do then if this school comes knocking on your door the following year?
Yeah, well, that's why, families got to be, very careful as they make their decisions type thing. And, really, if they're not extremely knowledgeable, parents really should employ an advisor to help them through that, walking through that pathway, I guess, is that if you do sign right away with a CHL, whether that be WHL, OHL, or QJ or QJMHL league, it basically then you're done from an NCAA perspective, and so there's no need to sign too young as a player unless you're 100% committed to that route. And I mean, teams will put pressure on you if they especially take you as a first round. I mean, they're going to want to sign you. And in fairness to the teams, typically their GM and or head scout is going to be talking to you before they draft you and say, if we draft you in the first round, our expectation is you will sign and look to get that verbal commitment from the player and the parent type thing. As you get deeper into the draft, even second, third, fourth round, I mean, there's players that might be sitting on the fence. They, typically will be talking to the WHL team and saying, we're not sure. I mean, undecided this time. And I think that's an honest answer if that's the boat you're in. And then teams have to calculate the risk that they're willing to accept based on the player's skills and abilities, whether they'll take them and risk a chance of losing them to the NCAA or not. And so, I think the main thing from a player and a parent perspective is just to make sure and get good advice on, what you need to do and not do to keep your avenues open. And, but again, if you're 100% committed, you want to go WHL, there's no risk in signing. I mean, that's the path you want to choose and go. And lots of kids do that. And lots of kids do that with great success. Conversely, there's a lot of kids that hold off and go the college road, and they have great success too. So there's no one right path that guarantees success for any one individual.
As much as we say that there's no right path, there's no rush to continue on with your education. I mean, obviously the WHL is considered a professional situation because it is very heavily involved in the hockey operations throughout the entire calendar year, similar to what you would see in college. So the scholarships and the money that is available should you choose the Western Hockey League route is there up to 18 months after your final game played, as
Mm-hmm.
well, making sure that you play certain amount of games between the first half and second half of a season to grant you that access per annual scholarship. Very important to players as well after their WHL career.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in my opinion, both scholarships are great opportunities for players. I mean, how many students that maybe don't play high level sports would say, "Oh my goodness, I would die to have what the Western Hockey League graduates can get for basically free education and the NCAA getting potentially the same." I mean, it's outstanding, and is one better than the other? I mean, it depends on the kid again, and it's a question that we get asked all the time, and there is no one right answer. And but again, it's just they're both incredible programs. As you mentioned with the Western Hockey League, there is a window that you have to use it, and it makes sense, right? You just can't drag out that liability for a hockey team forever, right? Or how did they get that off their books and stuff? So they do have to draw a line, and you got that 18 months, and or if you sign a professional contract. And the other important thing you want to point out based on the comments you made about Western Hockey Leagues are professionals, and ultimately that comes down to the fact that they get paid a per diem. And so they get in the range of, I think, anywhere from like 150 to, I think maybe a fifth-year player gets 500 or something like that a month. It's quite minimal in the big scheme of things, but that's why NCAA classifies them as professional players versus the USHL. The players do not get that per diem, and so they are not deemed professional. Yet they're ultimately both Tier 1 elite junior hockey leagues that are very, very comparable, but that one difference of the per diem is the difference between professional and non-professional from the NCAA perspective.
No doubt. So age perspective, I mean, it's still the same thing. I mean, you're going into the NCAA, you're going to USHL 16, 17, 18 years old, similar to the Western Hockey League. It really all depends on which route you'd like to take and whether or not for a lot of student athletes, it's being able to handle that idea of playing hockey and going to school at the same time too. Could be a little bit daunting for some players as well.
Yeah, and it goes back to the no one size fits all, and that's why our kind of methodology is we really try to understand the individual, both from an academic and from a hockey perspective and just a general personality perspective, and that includes maturity and stuff, and just to see where they are on the pendulum type thing and stuff, and what may be the right path for them. Because again, going to college, especially NCAA, if you go in as a true freshman, say 18 years old, right out of high school, I mean, that's a pretty heavy load to be taking classes and living away from home probably for the first time, and practicing for college hockey, traveling on weekends to games and stuff like that. So are they ready to handle that, or go Western Hockey League, which is still a big jump? And a lot of the kids, and my son included, will take classes during while they're attending or participating in the Western Hockey League, and at least take one class, right? I think that's just a good idea. That's a huge workload in itself. But again, the schedule is a little bit more rigorous in the Western Hockey League, and that's why it's more like a pro-like game. And frankly, why a lot of NHL clubs like Western Hockey League players, they have to ride those buses, the long hours. They have to manage their time. They get home at 6 a.m, may have to go to school or go to community service type thing and stuff. And it's not much different than a professional hockey player that's plays a game in Los Angeles and has an overnight flight to Toronto and lands in the morning and got to get the kids to daycare and stuff like that. It's it's a pretty strenuous schedule. And just by doing that and putting you through that, they do develop a routine and the ability to adapt to that, and makes it easier to transition into the NHL.
There's one more glaring difference between the roots of the North versus the roots of the South. And I think it's back in June or late May, we talked about the Phase 2 draft that occurred this past year. That's another opportunity for players who are maturing late, budding late, if you will, to get into these programs at a little bit older of an age.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, one thing I really like about the United States Hockey League is the way that they do, handle their protected lists, and, in particular, the Phase 2 draft. And so just to review, the Phase 2 draft is held the day after the entry draft, shall we call it, the Phase 1, which is basically the players that are 15 turning 16 in that year. And so that'd be they're eligible for the first time in that Phase 1. And so there's 10 rounds of that. And then the Phase 2 is held right away the next day. And that's so any player worldwide that is not on a protected list that is eligible for USHL hockey. So that can be a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old, an 18-year-old, 19, 20-year-old. Any of those players are eligible to be picked by a USHL team. And basically the draft goes as long as teams have room on their protected list. So it can go as, I think it's gone up in, 20 rounds type thing, but there's only a couple teams picking in the later rounds. But it allows them to, find, I guess, nuggets or needles in the haystack in some cases. And, the other beauty is just based on how the protected lists work for the USHL. You can only keep so many players of a certain age as they kind of age up. So as an example, so first year draft class, you can protect 10 of those players. The next year comes around, now you can only protect 6 of that age group type thing. Following year, that particular age group drops down to 3 players that you can keep protected on your list and not be on your active roster. And so it forces teams that basically you got to use players or throw them back into the pond for somebody else to catch. And I really like that. And, I think that's, the WHL, typically as you age up, if you haven't cracked a roster, well, naturally through typical natural attrition, you're going to probably get thrown back in the pond. But, there is sometimes interest in a 19-year-old. Some teams going on a run and they need a role player. They'll pick those guys up and stuff. But it is just one of the finer differences between the two leagues that, again, I like what the USHL does, but is it perfect? No. And did what the WHL does, is that perfect? No, but it's good also, just different.
Certainly is a big difference for players, especially if those that haven't matured, still maybe, put on 7 inches in size over a year or two and maybe 30 pounds of muscle. But like we said, it's never one size shoe fits all or one skate fits all. There are many different ways to be reviewed, looked at, and the potentials of even going overseas, staying in North America are always there at every age. So I want to thank you, Wayne, for kind of giving that clarification. Of course, if you have any questions or any concerns or just want to get some more insight, get a hold of Wayne. He's easy to find. If you need to find him, you can contact us here at ASTV and we'll gladly share his contact information with you. You can find him on Facebook. You can find him on LinkedIn. You can find him wherever we do our shows. Thanks, Wayne, for taking the time with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Theo. Always a pleasure to chat and look forward to chatting to you next week. Have a good week.
Well, exactly. We'll talk more about this infamous this new timeline for this Western Hockey League draft, perhaps some more differences between the three leagues. Thanks for joining us here. This is our
Sounds
Wayne's
great.
World Part 1. Part 2 coming up will be Rick McConnell, head coach U17 at the Pilot Mound Hockey Academy. He's playing host this weekend at Pilot Mound Blackjack Stewart Arena for several schools out west coming in. Plus, he just got back from Calgary. So we'll see if he's got his bus legs off and his hockey skates on and are off now because he's ready to sit down with us here on the ice. Stay with us. Welcome to Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, your world-class academic and hockey training facility created to maximize each student's athletic and academic potential. Blackjack Stewart Arena, home of the Buffalo, is inside the 46,000 square foot complex, as well as a curling rink and other facilities. The students have a unique combination of successful, well-rounded education at Pilot Mound Collegiate Institute and the professional hockey training in an encouraging community. The years of experience of on-ice coaching propel our students to the next level, both mentally and physically, in a professional environment. Joining us live here on the ice is Rick McConnell, U17 head coach. Rick, great to finally sit down with you. How have you been this couple of months?
Oh, pretty good. How about yourself?
Oh, just hanging in there. Loving the fact that I get to see hockey, watch these young bucks, these young stars get together finally, putting the jerseys on, playing for the name on the front as opposed to the name on the back. It's got to be nice to have that arena, Blackjack Stewart, finally being used up, right, Rick?
Oh, definitely. It was a long haul there the last 18 months, but the kids were jumping, excited to get back at it as we as coaches were too. So it's definitely good to get back in the rink and the kids flying around out there.
Did you remember how to skate?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
No problem.
I'm a vet at this. I know how to do it. It's like swinging a golf club, right, Rick?
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about obviously certain parts of the season are back in full swing. One part that isn't is the NAHL, still on hiatus because of COVID. Real quick, just touch on what the players experience at Pilot Mound when being part of that league as well, on top of not only exhibition play, but regular season action with the CSSHL.
Yeah, it's too bad we're not playing down there this year, but with all that's going on, obviously we can't get down there. We may go down later in the season for a tournament or two, but that's a great league for exposure for our kids. Just to see different teams as well, lots of different teams, and playing the CSL is great, but you tend to see a lot of the same teams over and over. So to get down and it's a big deal for the kids for exposure down there too. There's it's like Kobe Bear that played for us in the past was actually drafted in that North American League, and that was all through playing with us. So it's an experience that we've talked to the kids about that they're going to miss out on, but hopefully next year we get things straightened out and we can get back going down playing in that league, because it's an excellent league too. It's a little different brand of hockey than we play up here. I find it's a little older. A lot of the older guys still playing, and it's much more physical than what we're playing up here in Canada.
Let's talk quickly about the life of a student athlete from living or playing in Pilot Mound, traveling to places like Calgary, BC, Prairie, all the different opportunities going out west. What is it that you notice or you find most that the kids enjoy about it, but also get the experience as being a student athlete in a prep academy style in Pilot Mound with the Hockey Academy?
Well, first of all, I know they like having a lot of days off of school, although we've preached it, and this has been our first couple trips here lately, that it's not just a holiday. Traveling, we're still doing a lot of schoolwork and keeping up with that, but just getting on that bus, it's a great situation. The earlier we can travel, the better for me. It's team bonding. We've heard a lot over the last while about riding the bus and whatnot with all the what happened in Humboldt, and it's really true. You get on that bus, and it's the best time. It's the kids get together, become more of a team, and there's lots goes on the bus that stays on the bus, and that's okay. It's and we just come home from Calgary, and you could see the camaraderie and the chemistry building between kids, and you're in close quarters, so it's a good deal. But with the academy and traveling and playing in the CSHL, it's a great league. It's great for the kids in our academy to like in AAA, you're more or less playing in Manitoba for the most part. I know some teams go out of the province a little bit, but we travel to BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, so we're all over, and it's a great experience for the kids, again, for exposure. A lot of our kids are interested in playing out west, whether it be in BC, Saskatchewan, Alberta, or whatever, but at all levels too. So the big thing is the exposure and being on the ice every day, and just the learning to live away from home at a young age, experiencing a new school, new people, new coaches, small town living. It's a big change coming from the bright lights to the small town, but the majority of the people quite like that. So the academy life, it's excellent. Our big thing for me is getting them in and getting the kids to understand that you're not leaving to play junior hockey, you're leaving to play hockey and still go to school. We have to, it's 50-50. Sometimes it's adjustment because they get away from home and think, oh, mom and dad aren't here, we can just play hockey. But and myself working in the school system, it's also I'm also driven to keep these kids' marks up, and so they keep doors open down the road. So that's my biggest challenge, is to keep the marks up and keep the school aspect, because the kids are jumping to play hockey. That's not a problem, and the school isn't really a problem. It just takes time to adjust for these kids.
A lot of these kids come from smaller communities. Not saying that Pilot Mound's like the booming city of southwestern Manitoba, but I mean, you talk about the regiment and the schedule. Not many kids will shy away the fact that they have access to an arena daily, play phenomenal hockey every weekend, pretty much starting in mid-September all the way through March. But also just that schedule and that band of brotherhood that's built, like you said, team bonding both on the road and at home. What did you notice this past weekend in Calgary with the team, with them playing 4 different teams in a matter of 3 days? How did you were able to prepare the boys? And is it something where you're preparing them for a game, like one game at a time, or do you have a plan over the entire weekend as a coach to kind of address and assess?
Well, for us right now, I have an entirely new team. This is new for me, other than my very first year when I was working with Rod as an assistant coach. With COVID and everything, we've got a whole new group here. So we've gone back to game by game here right now. We've got a lot to learn. We have a lot of kids coming in that this is new hockey, the travel, the tempo, traveling. There's a lot of things. So when we didn't get off to the greatest start the first couple of weeks. So going out to Calgary, it was kind of, I've been on the kids just to keep building and building, working shift in, shift out, game in, game out. Not so much look at the results, but are we improving? Are we getting better at our game as a team plus individually? So when that happened, we actually had a fairly successful weekend. Maybe not wins and losses, but I did see great strides over the weekend. Our compete level, I was not overly impressed. It wasn't high enough for the level that I need them to be playing at, but we're getting there. And this weekend, I seen a lot more compete, and it took that obviously to beat a team like Edge and compete with Prairie. So it's right now we're going game by game, and I'm not looking too far ahead because like I said, I have a lot of new kids and we got a lot of work to do, and it's just a process. It's going to be a process for us.
Got quite a bit of geography covered on the roster of the team. Had a quick glance at it before our message tonight. Anchorage, Alaska, Illinois, Idaho. I mean, these far and wide. We still are able to recruit players to Pilot Mound. Does that help the program also by able to grabbing these players and showing them off to this academy and say, this is what we're offering, not only just as a student athlete vision, but also just that opportunity to play at that next level when you graduate?
Oh, for sure. These kids we've brought in, and some of them have come to us through word of mouth. They've heard about our program, or the American kids have seen us playing down there, when we were in that prep league. So it definitely helps. And these kids coming in are good players. So we're hoping that we can develop them and move them on, and they'll spread the word that Pilot Mound's a good place to come. And it is a small town for these boys that are coming in from some pretty big centers, but my feeling in being around them as much as I have so far, they're quite happy being in a small town. They've really found that how our academy is, we care about everybody. They're not hiding, they're not hidden amongst of a lot of teams. We've only got 3 here. Our school's 145 kids, so everybody knows them, and they're often commenting how it's like one big family here. So it's a good thing. I think for the most part, they quite enjoy coming in.
Have you noticed obviously when you play at home, you had a very big weekend a couple weeks back with Edge, not on the wins-loss column, but just the number of spectators at the rink. Have you noticed that be a little bit more of an uplifting move for the players, and do they feed off the crowd?
Oh, absolutely. And with not a lot of hockey being played in the last 18 months, people around here were anxious to get out as well. And we have enough Manitoba kids too that are bringing family and stuff in. So yeah, it was nice to get out there and see the crowd, and it definitely energizes the kids. I know they'll comment, if they get out there and we have a decent crowd. And so far the crowds have been pretty good, and which I suspected because of such a lack of hockey in the last little while.
We miss it, no doubt. Because it was a brand new team, Rick, let's go to the Wayback Machine a little bit, not too far back. Do you remember the response that the kids had upon seeing that dressing room for the first time, and just picking their locker spots and just seeing how much of a tradition has truly been built in the short amount of time with the Pilot Mound Buffalo?
Oh, absolutely. That's a big deal for us every year. The kids coming in, lots of kids haven't had their own dressing room, and ours is pretty good for a little town in our arena. It's a pretty special little place, and coming off a championship, because we are still the CSHL champions, we still have our banner and our trophy and stuff in our room. And so for the kids to come in, there was a lot of eyes, a lot of excitement, and we have it set up nicely for when they come the first time. So yeah, we get a lot of comments on our dressing room and how homey it is. And now that they've been in there and have taken to it, it's like their home. You can tell that they're pretty proud of it. And I'm pretty proud of my guys this year. They're very clean. They've kept our room very clean, tidy, and I'm a neat freak, so I like it clean and neat, the floor, everything, and they're really good at it. And it proves to me they're proud of their room. So it is a big deal.
Blackjack Stu Narita is hosting the CSSHL Showcase this upcoming weekend. A couple of games for the U17 crew. What are you expecting from the boys this upcoming weekend? And tell us a little bit about, not letting too much of the cat out of the hat, but a little bit of the game plan you have expecting.
Well, I'm hoping we come to play. We're going to have to. I know last weekend, I'll be honest, we upset Edge, and they're a heck of a hockey team. So they're going to come in here and want revenge again. So we're going to have to be prepared. And we've been practicing here a couple already this week. Our tempo is going to have to be high. They're very quick, very skilled, high-octane team. Quite impressive, actually. They remind me a lot of the club I had a couple of years ago when we won. Some really high-end players there. So we got to be prepared. The kids know what it takes now. We really have to be. Our work ethic has to be second to none against them. We can't be missing checks. We can't take shifts off. We've got to have good goaltending. We got to do all the little things. So we've just been harping on that, and then we're going to play IHA, who we haven't seen yet. So I know they haven't got a win. They're down there with us right now, so it's going to be a big game because one of us is going to come out with a win, and I want it to be us. And again, my process though is to each game we get a little better. We keep working at it, and I'm hoping by March we're a team to be reckoned with. Time will tell, but like I said, I'm not taking too big steps here right now. It's kind of baby steps and teaching these kids what it's all about. But we're playing at home, so it's a big deal again. I want a good showing. I want them to be prepared mentally and off the ice. So I think we're we're working on it. We'll see.
Certainly looking forward to this weekend's action. Like you mentioned, Edge and IHA will be two of the teams amongst a couple more that shows up this weekend in Pilot Mound. Go out there and enjoy the rink. Blackjack Street Arena all weekend long. Rick, how's Ernie doing? Man of many words, maybe not so much, but he's still sharp as a whip, is he not?
Oh yeah, he's still full of energy. He's doing well. Yeah, he's still helping me out. So no, he's been good. He was anxious to get back in the rink too. I know for him it was a long 18 months because he's been doing this for a long time. So he's all good, and he's still full of energy. We'll put it that way.
Put it that way. Coach Rick McConnell with the U17 male head coach. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to hearing how the action goes, and we'll keep in touch throughout the season as always, Rick.
Great. Thanks, Theo.
Right on. This has been a great session here with Rick McConnell. Stay with us, and we will talk to you later next week, and we will go from there. Thanks for watching ASTV and On the Ice, and we will see you next time.